Yo, and welcome to the 149th episode of League of Rage, a Pokemon Trading Card Game Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kevin Clemente, aka Mel_Magikarp. I'm joined today by a very special temporary guest host. Joining me all the way from the future, an entire day ahead of myself, we have Stefan Eriksson, we talked about what to say, and I forgot, the leader, the host, the teacher of Stefan's classroom. Stefan, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Just got up over here, like I said, a day ahead of you. Just had my first cup of coffee, so I'm still waking up. But we will get there. We'll get there.
And over here, I'm like, I am so ready for bed. I'm going to be up in a few hours, get ready to teach some classes. But before we do that, let's go ahead and teach some people some Pokemon. So I've invited you on because if people have not checked out your YouTube channel, you 100% should. The Pokemath stuff is, if you're a true both nerd and Pokemon player, 10 out of 10 should watch it. But you are both an accomplished Pokemon player and an accomplished person in your own career, which has to do with our today's topic, which is a very simple: can Tord Reklev get rich playing the Pokemon trading card game? Before we get into that, Stefan, can you give us a little bit of your background both as a Pokemon player and professionally?
Yeah, Pokemon player first. I played since 2005, so I'm moving on my 20th year almost, right? Been playing the World Cup at least 10 times now. My whole family plays. Everything is involved around Pokemon. Everything I do, essentially, in one way or another. I currently judge mostly for the last 2 seasons, given time commitment, family life, and everything like that. But it's still wonderful to be in touch with the community in this way and can give back in this sense. In terms of my professional career, I have done a PhD in finance, which I think is relevant to the topic today, or in economics. And I currently work as an associate professor at the Faculty of Economics and Business for the University of Groningen in the north of the Netherlands. So that's where people speak Dutch, not German. I should maybe clarify that a little bit. But no, that's what I do, and in a nutshell. And of course, I'm better than Jesper, but that's should be an obvious fact by now.
It's pretty obvious. Outside of creating Epic Splash, what else has he done?
Oh yeah, that's true. But we have Epic Splash. That's another topic for ourselves, and I think you'll love the format. Given you should love the format, I hope.
I've played it. Shout out to Ricky if you're listening, but I have a friend who brings it to every League Cup, and we've played a few times.
That is great. We had an Epic Splash event last weekend, so great times.
So I want to mention, should I have said Dr. Stefan Eriksson, or are you still doing are you completing the program still, or have you completed it?
I completed in 2018. In order to become an assistant and a professor first, you have to complete your doctorate, and then I've been promoted to associate professor. So I'm one step off the infamous actual professor title. So we're moving there slowly but surely. So been a professor for almost 6 years.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Stefan Eriksson. But of course, before we can get into the topic, we have to start with some rapid strike questions because it's your first time on the podcast. So you're going to have 60 seconds to answer as many as you can with no explanation, just straight off the top of your head. Are you ready?
You're asking a uniprof to not give any explanation for their answers. I am ready. I'm ready. I'll do my best.
I believe in you. Question number 1, spring or fall?
Spring.
What's your favorite retro format to play?
07 Worlds.
What's your favorite deck of all time?
Flygon, Nidoqueen, Macago.
What's your favorite breakfast food?
Yogurt.
Who would be your starter Pokemon?
Squirtle.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
What color sleeves do you use?
Pink.
Would you rather watch a comedy or a drama?
Comedy.
Juniper, Sycamore, Oak, Rowan, or Magnolia?
Oak.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Math.
What's your favorite regional location to go to?
Can I pass? That's too hard. Oh, but no, pass. Anywhere I can drive.
Would you rather play big basics or a stage 2?
Stage 2.
Win by taking prizes or deck out?
Deck out.
And that is time. I did throw the last one in there just for you. You are a bit of a notorious control player, at least in my eyes. What are some of, I'm curious, because now that this is up here, what are some of the things that have drawn you to running those types of decks, or at least recently you run quite a bit of them?
It's it started quite a while ago, but to do it the shortest possible way, I just really enjoyed the way of playing because maybe there's a little sadistic nature in here. I don't know, but it's more like winning in a different way and just seeing your opponent struggle with this because they just too many people play this too straightforward and don't even think about what they're doing. They just go all aggro, all like resource management. I find it much more rewarding to actually play control because you have not only you need to know your own deck, of course, but you actually need to know everything else that's going on in every other meta deck because most of your actions are based on your estimates about how many copies they play or if they play a specific card. You even go into events relying on I'm not meeting this one single card, otherwise my deck simply just falls apart. Um, that can happen, and I just really enjoy that and have a really good time playing it in general because it just gives a completely different way of playing, which I really just find amusing.
So let's go ahead and jump into our topic. Our topic is, of course, a few weeks old, but it was a couple of weeks ago. Let's find the exact date. Metafy tweeted out, not a sponsor of the pod, but they do have a bunch of good coaching. On April 29th, Tord Reklev broke the record for sales on Metafy, selling $7,000 in tickets to his masterclass on Charizard EX in 2 hours. And this prompted the question in multiple questions in my mind, and judging from some of our DMs in advance, questions in your mind as well of what exactly can happen here. But the question for me is, can Tord Reklev get rich as a full-time Pokemon player? Is this untapped potential of earning $7,000 in a single day on a class? Is this something that can actually occur?
The answer is yes, because it just happened, right? When you formulate a question, it just happened. So yeah, that is minus the cut the Metafy does. Let's just be fair. I think they only put out the revenue number, so there's a little cut there, but it's still a significant amount of money that happened in very short time. So people would look at it like this is some kind of get rich quick scheme. No, it's just Tord doing Tord things. That's but in the short answer is yes, but we would need to define what it means to get rich, right? But
Mm-hmm.
in all fairness, a paycheck of $7,000 in 1 hour, that is more than a person's monthly paycheck. Most people, right? So
Yes.
I would characterize as if that happens once in a while or whatever. That yeah, you can get rich doing this. That should be the short version.
So, is this something that you think is sustainable for the long term? Now, obviously, I'm not talking about every week running a masterclass and selling that much, but is this something that you think, all right, we can continue on with this masterclass theme? Or do you believe that the bubble is going to burst, for lack of a better term, and that we're kind of seeing, well, the 7,000, all of those tickets, and then it's going to kind of fall off over and over and over if it keeps happening? Like, where do you think this is actually going to occur? Is this a sustainable model of revenue?
I think I think the without too much explanation, no, I don't think it's super sustainable in that sense. It's early, as you can hear. But I think to hinge that it hinges on a few things.
Mhm.
So what you're seeing right now is that every time there's a regional, or even especially when there's a regional, a big event, it pops up with new master classes when X number of people have performed well with a deck, and it's all fair that they want to capitalize on it. There's just if there's a demand for it, well, there's definitely supply,
Mhm.
and and that's what you're seeing right now. You are seeing a market being more and more flooded in the sense that there's more and more people offering these master classes. Heck, I've even offered a master class myself, but I'm just the guy who does shuffling for fun next on the side, right? So,
Mhm.
but the point is here, there's going to be so many players in terms of who can give these master classes that it's going to only be sustainable for the few because at some point it's also too much. That Tord is the one going with the record does not surprise me.
Mhm.
It's been multiple times indicating if somebody has to could pull this off, it's Tord. Heck, I don't know if you were at the Worlds in 2023 over in Japan. Were you
Mm-mm.
there?
No, but I
So
do know what happened in 2022 for his last minute coaching sessions.
yeah, that happened as well. But also one thing, to give an idea about the popularity of Tord. So after his finals, where he lost to
Mm,
Vance
mhm,
Kelly,
mhm.
congratulations to him, fantastic feat. His line for autograph was say 10, 20 meters long. Torts were going on after 2 hours and had to get private own security from the staff to be there.
Oh my
And it just kept
goodness.
going. It was that insane. And the line just kept going. He had to cut it short after he was standing there for multiple hours.
Hmm.
Just pictures, autographs, everything. That just gives you an idea about the hype around Tord. I wouldn't even say hype. The guy is established. Like this is not just come and go. It's been like this for quite a while.
Hmm.
And if somebody could pull off this Metafy heist, if you want to call it like that, it'll certainly be Tord. But can it be sustainable in the long run? I don't think so. But if there's somebody who's going to be able to capitalize on it, it's certainly Tord.
So you mentioned the supply demand, and the supply has been getting more and more, right? You can't log into Twitter, and you shouldn't log into Twitter at all, anyone. But you can't log into Twitter without seeing new Metafy master classes of, you know, anything, right? Like we've seen Dialga now with, this is just Water Regional. Of course, Dialga should
Exactly.
capitalize on it, right?
100%, 100%. And I have no disrespect to any of them who are actually giving the class because they're actually just, catering to the demand that's
Hmm.
possibly there. And I actually don't doubt they're going to fill their classes to some extent, especially because some of the names that do this, well, they're established players. We know that we know they know what they're talking about.
Hmm.
So yeah, you Dialga, and I bet you next week it's a new masterclass, right? Next time you log in, we're gonna see something different. But no, it's just wait till right before NAIC. Oh, I'm already like we should have a bingo card on how many types of masterclasses they're gonna be. Definitely, it's the supply is there,
Hmm.
and as you can see on the numbers, well, as long as the demand is there, that people they actually pick up this and they go above their reservation level, or sorry, the reservation income that they want to. So that is, if I'm offering a master class, I of course want to fill my class, but there is some minimum behind in my head that I want to do this for. In terms of I'm looking this to profit, right? So if I'm doing this master classes, most of the time I'm doing this because I want to make a profit. I want to make money off my side hustle or my main gig or whatever this would be, right? But there is a number where you say, okay, I wouldn't do it for below this because it's just not sustainable for me. Like if you offer a $20 class and only one person show up, you take $20 an hour minus Metafy's cut, and then because we all do our taxes, right? So then you're sitting like with much less. I don't know
Hmm.
about the tax bracket in the States, but I come from Denmark where more than half goes to tax, in income tax. Some people already curl their toes hearing that, but there's benefits with it. Trust me. But the point is, then you're left with less. So, just say for time being,
Hmm.
you have a $20 class, you have $10 in profit per student, right? So with one student, it's not sustainable, right? It's not something you would do. So there's some kind of number in the back of their head. As long as this number is being met, they will keep providing classes. This is a standard economic framework in just saying, okay, if this is worth their time, they'll keep doing it. So as long as this happens, yeah, then you are going to see a buttload of Metafy classes.
Do you think that they're going to jump off of Metafy at any point, or do you think this would be something that would be a realistic for continual growth of individuals if, let's say, the 50% is what they're actually taking out of the cut? I don't personally know. I don't know if you know. I don't think it
Okay,
matters.
I
Oh,
given
you
a
do know.
class and I don't know the exact I don't remember the exact cut, but I can tell it's way lower than 50%. It's way
Okay.
lower. Like they're not vultures in that sense. Like they're not you know there is a fee when you're signing up for a class. I know that.
Hmm.
So if I put up a Stefan's Classroom class, come and learn about whatever, for $30, it's going to cost them 30 something dollars.
Hmm. Yeah, there's an
And
extra
then I know they
5% for the purchaser. I do know that one.
exactly. So the person who purchased the class, there's a percentage. See, I don't remember all the percentages, but there is a fee there,
Hmm.
and then they take a small cut also from the earnings in the other end, right? So from their point of view, well, the question is, will it be like the people go off Metafy?
Hmm.
There's certainly been people who've done that, and all because they think like, okay, they're taking a big cut. But Metafy does I would say, a pretty good job in hosting these things and setting these things up and makes it easy. I've tried once to give a class, mostly out of interest also, but also just to see, how does this actually work?
Hmm.
And they do a very nice thing over Discord and everything like that. So it actually works quite well, and their support system is quite good. So as long as they can provide a product that people make them feel safe and people don't want to take a risk, then Metafy will be around. Like they have a good business model. We can't deny that.
Hmm.
But whether people gonna go away from it or not, it's hard to tell. But as long as they can provide a product the way they're doing it right now with a high degree of safety, I don't see a problem with them continuing doing this.
Another to stick on the Tord train that I want to mention is, or I guess ask about a little bit, is the premium that the Tord Reklev name brings to something like a masterclass. No matter how much supply there is, does the name, because you've already mentioned, right, the autograph things, and anyone who's either tried to talk to him at any event or anything like that has noticed you're not the only one, or, etc., right? There's always people there.
Yeah.
Does that name cause a large influx into these classes, and how much is that important, right? How much is the person behind it really going to be the premium of the product, if that makes
If
sense?
I Oh yeah, if I were to make myself a nice statistical econometrical model about this, and I
Hmm.
would say what is the most important factor contributing to the success of your class, 100% the name behind doing it in this field we're in. I cannot, on top of my head, imagine another way of doing it. So indeed, there is a so-called Tord premium.
Hmm.
I wouldn't deny that because suppose I would offer a class in Charizard, Tord will offer Master in Charizard. I will get one person for every 1,000 person Tord would do it, just to
Yeah.
give you an idea. But it's not to flame myself for this, but it'll be similar for many people.
Hmm.
It's just very hard to compete with what arguably would be the best player in the game, at least best player we have right now. There's a different discussion that was also on Twitter about who is the best of all time, but I'm not going to touch that one
Different
there.
drama.
I've I've been around seeing both all the contenders there, and I for one would love to see them fight it out in that sense. But it's very hard to compare across metas, of course. So you
Hmm.
can't. It's very difficult to do. But back on the Tord thing and back on your question, indeed, yeah, the short answer is yes. There is a huge Tord premium, and it's probably the most important thing because your accomplishments, whether you're credible at what you're doing, like it's more like if you have, it's like if you have a player doing control. If Sander would give a masterclass in control, it'll also be sold out instantly. I don't doubt that for a second. But it will just imagine funny for a moment. Sander is going to do a Chen Pao class. People will be like, what's going on here? Like,
Hmm.
what am I missing? But they'll probably do it anyway because it's Sander talking about stuff.
Hmm.
And the same with Tord, but it's more harder to point out. Like, suppose Tord would come with a masterclass of a completely not Tord deck, it would still sell. It will still sell. Funny enough, because they just want to hear Tord's thought about this, and he has his thought process about this. Well, we cannot doubt it's on point because evidently his results are pretty good, and the way he's doing things works.
Hmm.
So it's also just to hear how does a player like that make it all work? Because at the end of the day, we're playing a card game with a certain amount of variance involved, regardless of how consistent your deck is, regardless of whatever choices you make during a game or before the game, there's still going to be an element of like, pairings, luck in general, right? So some people will come and say like, yeah, but this is just a card game. However, there's a reason why you see a consistent amount of the same players, quote quote, is landing on top. There is a skill component to this game,
Hmm.
evidently, and indeed, Tord is just skill. You cannot. It is just what it is. Like if he would go and just have a one-time win, say win one IC, people could say, okay, guy's good, but was it skill or was it a bit of luck? You may say fool me once, fool me twice, and after winning how many ICs and how many top cuts, somebody did some statistics on. It's been like I don't know how many ICs and how many finals Tor's been sitting in.
It was a disgusting number that like no one should have that high of a percentage. It was like 25 or 33 or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
it was exactly something that made me think like, okay, Tor, this is just you're playing the whole event, and we just should put Tor in the final, and we play the whole tournament to figure out who's going to play him in finals. That's how I felt when I read that statistic. It was kind of and I also seen people just saying, yeah, we're just playing in Tord's world, and we're just waiting for a final Tord Azul, and the rest of us are just there to buff the numbers.
mhm.
Also seen people write that. I'm also like, yeah, okay, I can see the joke behind this, but it's kind of some extreme statements. But there's always ever so slightly a sliver of truth to these. Every joke has a sliver of truth behind it, if that's the correct English word for this.
It
But I
is. Yeah,
think
you're right on.
yeah. Excellent. English is not my first language, but we get there. We get there.
You're doing a great job. Another thing off of the can Tord get rich is okay. So Metafy class is clearly a lot of money, and you think it will be sustainable as long as Tord is Tord. But the other part of the getting rich is everything about Pokemon, right? So it's the prize money, sure. But then there's also the sponsorships and things like that. There's content creation, although he has decided against the content creation train, which tells me a lot about how much money is available to other things. How much income, not number wise, right? But how much income opportunities are there for a top player such as Tord Reklev? Like, is he getting, from a card shop or something like that? Or
Yeah.
are these things there? Are they coming in? Are they sustainable? Is this something that is a full-time
I
job?
think I think if you just think about it for a little bit, there's a natural way to look at this. What happens in other games? Like what happened in other games, and we can even look outside esports. And then if we define Pokemon as an esport, but that's a different discussion. But look towards other games like any other sports or whatnot.
Mhm.
The most biggest income, yes, prize money is a thing. But when you look at the prize money, those are the most volatile income streams that you have. So it's not what you should rely on, and it's also by far not enough to sustain. Let's not forget the guy lives, so far as I know, still in Norway.
True.
I don't know if you know much about Norway, but that country ain't cheap to live in. Let's just leave that hanging for a moment.
Hmm.
But whatever sport you're doing, whatever you're doing, it's a combination of a couple of things. So you have prize money, sure, that's part of it, but the main part should be your sponsorships. Because the sponsorships that you have are what you can say they're most likely lump sum cash deals or other deals. And those are the money you should be relying on mostly. And then, of course, you have, in Tort's case here for Pokemon specifically, you have the coaching element.
Hmm.
And then, of course, you would have content creation. A lot of people go for content creation, and I can also see why he doesn't want to do that because it actually is extremely time consuming. You know that better than most, I guess. But it's also more the point that he just wants to spend his time differently.
Hmm.
And he perhaps either he doesn't want to or he sees a bigger premium doing something else. But the point is here, there's different pillars here to look at. There's your sponsors, there's your prize money. In this case, there's coaching as well. And you would have to, say, okay, how much do I need to make a living of this? And then you have a number in mind that can pay your bills and, at the same time, not make you only eat oatmeal 24/7, but
I
also
mean,
have a
oatmeal's pretty good.
I love oatmeal is definitely A or S tier food if we're talking, tier list, right? That's also been a thing, but I no, it's definitely up there. But if you eat it day in, day out, you get it gets a little stale after a while.
It's fair.
No, so there's different things to put in here and without putting attached numbers because that depends indeed where you're living. There's a huge impact where you're stationed.
Hmm.
And let's not forget, there's traveling involved here. There's a lot of traveling involved. And you may think, okay, in Europe, we are blessed that we have seemingly super cheap Ryanair, Wizz Air, Norwegian, you name, just to name something off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It still costs, in the realm of dollars, it will still cost you hundreds of dollars to go to an event.
Hmm.
Unless you're driving 2 hours down the road, and I would bet you can do it cheaper. But in general, it costs you hundreds of dollars if you want to go to Poland to play Gdansk regionals like we had last season or Warsaw the season before.
Hmm.
You would have to fly. Not many people drive that one, even though you think you're still in Europe. But we don't really drive 12 plus hours to an event over in Europe. That's not a thing, not at least in my head.
It's
But
a
you can see
thing in
there's
the US, and I still can't believe it's a thing.
every time I hear about it, I'm like, I'm amazed. And at the same time, I'm like, that's a US thing. I'm just not going to bother.
I'm too old
But
for
it's
that one.
amazing.
It's
Same here. Same here. I could maybe have done it 10 years ago. I'll be like, oh, cool. I want to do that, for a regional. And I've also been driving to regionals. Don't get me wrong. I've driven that.
Mhm.
But that was a while ago. Now you choose to pay comfort and get there quick, right? Like
Now we're
we have
talking.
jobs, right? We have jobs, so we can, fork the pay the flight ticket and go. But
Exactly.
on the point here, you need to earn X amount of money every month.
Hmm.
If somebody can do it, it's probably Tord at the moment, but it's not just the Metafy classes because you can also see. Look at the class he did now. Did he offer another class after this one?
That is a great question. Did he?
That's actually a good one, right? Because it's already a couple of weeks old. And if you would think of it, if he would say really reap the benefits of this, he would have offered more classes after he sees the first one go sold out, even with extra seats. So it also just depends on what does he wants to do with it. And you can think about it. If it's a 7K spike, and the next time he can also earn around that money or even a little less, that doesn't matter, then he doesn't have to do it too often. Because every time he does it, it's more than a month's salary if it keeps up these numbers.
Yeah. How much time do you think, and this is asking someone who is a competitive player who has competed at fairly high levels, how much time do you think it takes to master, quote unquote, a deck to the level that you can offer a masterclass reliably? Because there is being a good player. Tord can pick up any deck and play it better than me, even if I've been playing it for a while, right? Because of those natural skills. But
Yeah.
to actually know matchups and lines and stuff like that, how long do you think that's actually taking someone of unpaid time?
That is a lot. And I think a lot of people, it's a great question because a lot of people tend to forget the works that goes into this. Like, it's like the same of the story about an engineer coming out to a ship and then, figure out what is wrong. He goes with his hammer, he just one click and he figures this is wrong. After 5 minutes or 2 minutes, he goes, so what do you want? What are you charging for? $20,000. It's like, huh, why are you charging $25 for this? Well, what you're forgetting is I have the skills to figure out that this was your problem in 2 minutes, right?
Mhm.
That's a story I keep hearing, and it's kind of similar to this one here in the sense that there goes an large amount. You wouldn't believe how many games Tord play on an average day. I think he plays really a lot. From what I also talk to him, and also
Mhm.
it is a lot, and he's not
I,
the only one. There's a
I know
lot of
his
great
alt
coaches.
accounts and I've hit them on ladder
Yeah.
before at all hours of the day. Yes. For anyone listening, he plays more than you think. No matter what number it is, it's more.
It's more, and we have a lot of great coaches out there, great people who know what they're doing and everything about that, and all of them they spend an unimaginable amount of hours to test and prep for a deck
Mhm.
and know what they're doing. Yes, you can get pretty far with natural skill or just pure experience.
Mhm.
Simply just say, okay, I've played this game for so long that I can just pick up a deck and I can get my hand around it pretty quickly. But in terms of knowing exactly what sequence to do, what card play to do, what matchup to do, approach in different ways,
Mhm.
no, that takes a large amount of practice. And then if you factor in all those hours, okay, in Tord's case, he would still make a lot of money per hour, I believe.
I mean, yeah, you're making 7,000 in a class. That's
Yeah. But then suppose you have a lot of classes can make say $500 an hour. That's not unheard of.
Mhm.
Or at least a couple of hundreds. But let's just play with 500 because it's still a relatively large number for 1 hour.
For sure.
Then imagine that I do that, but I spend 50 hours practicing for this.
Mhm.
Well, you can do the math. 5,000 divided by 50, right? And then you're like, then okay, then I'm down at that old salary I talked about earlier. Was it a tenor I talked about earlier, right?
Mhm.
And then it doesn't sound so impressive anymore, does it? You're just reaping the benefits of all the practice going into it up until that point.
Yeah.
So that people need to keep that in mind. But of course, it's very hard to not think about it's 7,001 hours still.
Mhm.
But it's to get to that point, it takes an unbelievable amount of work. And even if you or I would put the same amount of hours in it, I don't think either of us will sell for 7,001 hour, even if that happened.
I think that's the important side effect I want everyone to also kind of realize as we talk about the finances of Metafy coaching full-time Pokemon. The inverse is we're not saying people shouldn't do take a class because you're paying toward $40 for the hour.
Yeah.
You are getting hundreds of hours presumably of practice condensed down for you, and it's saving you those hundreds of hours. And even then, like you said, if we put in those hundreds, could we sell a class? No, I don't think I would have mastered a deck as well as he would have, and then would have been able to tell me. So it's also the inverse is also true of it is a bit of a cheat code. If you have more money than time, it works really well.
Spoken like a teacher, my friend. Spoken like a teacher. There we go. Now it is indeed that is indeed just a fact of this, and do not forget that. But we have a large, diverse crowd when you go on Twitter and stuff like that, and you hit the whole spectrum of people, and then we of course some people would understand this, some would not. But we're just trying to explain that hey, it's just not about that 1 hour, and would people pay for this? Well, evidently yes, they would pay for this $40, no problem.
Mhm.
It's even evidence that people will pay for a live coaching session with Tord at a regional. The going rate we're looking at up against $200 for 1 hour at live session. So, and there's evidence that this has been paid.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
That is some lunch money. I can tell you that. That is some lunch money. Like heck, I can not charge that amount even in my professional life. It's I don't think so. At least I haven't tried yet. Maybe I should, but no. But that is just again, say the Tord Premium on this. And should you do it? Heck, I would have done the same.
Oh yeah.
I cannot sit here. I cannot sit here and play all high and mighty. I would have done exactly the same because he established the name. He did the work.
Mhm.
He got himself there. So no doubt, no doubt, guy's good.
So I kind of want to transition this into away from Tord specifically, although I think Tord is the best case study in this because it's almost certainly the upper echelon of what is potentially achievable. Someone will come and dethrone him as the either number one or number 1B, whatever you want to say, at some point in the future. Looking at Gabriel Fernandez right now for that one. This podcast is sponsored by TC Evolutions. TC Evolutions offers the finest quality crafted damage counters, ability use markers, and V-Star markers out there. So if you're looking to beat your opponents in style, be sure to check out tcevolutions.com and use code LAKE10 for 10% off your order. Anyway, back to the show. Something that I've always enjoyed the concept of is people making a profit or making a living off of their hobby and their love. And that's always been something I've been a massive, massive, massive fan of. How sustainable is it as a whole for the current Pokemon trading card game scene to have more people who are making a full-time living on the Pokemon trading card game? Because I can think of a handful off the top of my head, a lot of the bigger content creators, right? Mahone, Azul, Gabe, Tablemon, these are the people that automatically come to mind. But how sustainable is it to continue the growth of full-time Pokemon players, whether content, coaching, whatever it means, which I think is something that you'll probably get into a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you thinking about that?
But as long as we have an established game like this here, there's definitely room for people to make a living of it, no doubt. And it only gotten well at the start of the season when we saw the prize money essentially double overnight. Essentially, right? It was
Yeah,
still, but
some
they
a
also
little
put a
more,
lot more
some.
money into a little more. So it's nice. You go now instead of winning 5K, you win 10K in a regional, and now you win. You get the idea. A lot more money is involved, right?
Oh
All
yeah.
of a sudden, in prize money. Um, again, different discussion how that should be distributed. We can talk all hours about that. But indeed,
That might be a
there are.
future episode.
Oh, I got so many topics for you, Kevin. Oh, this is just one of many. But the point is here, there is a lot of people who can. When I say a lot, it's definitely, we talk just a couple of handfuls, but it's still some people who count one too many. That's how you can count. But yes, that could happen. And we have a couple of players who not only Tord, there are other players out there who do make a living of this and who are just so good content creating that if they only focus solely on this, that will make their living. I also have a couple of other names on top of my head compared to those you added there that I also know would be able to make a living if they decided to. Heck, rewind 3 years. I had the choice to do this for a living, to also work indirectly in this here, because there's also other things to it. What would you characterize of it? Do you do coaching? Do you do content creating? Do you do prize money? Or do you just work for Pokemon? Or do you do something that but you have people who also made a living by simply just going from making content to work for Pokemon, or just do your hobby for a living. Well, best example of that on top of my head is Karl Sukovic, right? Puka, right? So he did what a lot of people would see as their dream. He went and worked for Big Pikachu, which is amazing on its own. We have many other friends that also did the same. And that's also one thing you can say, you make your hobby your living.
I think I want to go off that one real quick, just because I live in Seattle, where we've seen many, many good local players go onto that. There are a lot of former competitive players who now work, and we've seen these league battle decks are great, right? The build and battle kits are getting better. All this stuff that people are saying, that is because these people have gone. It's not just Puka. It's nowhere near. In fact, Puka's part of the team that is now like a dozen former top players. Like there are a
And
lot
it's
of them.
fantastic. It is fantastic they do this. This is exactly a great example of how you can channel your love for the hobby into and help so many people get a much better experience with the game, and
Hmm.
hopefully, introduce a good game. And exactly, League Battle X, they're gone damn amazing over the years.
They're really good.
Yeah, we remember how it was when we started playing. That this was just, sorry for the word, but it was just trash. It was just not good what you got.
Yeah,
But now this is a lot better. Oh, in Seattle, you say, okay, remind me that one afterwards.
for sure.
No, but you're absolutely right about that. And just to round off the question, the answer is just a yes. Yes, can it sustain?
Hmm.
Yes. Can it be multiple people doing this? Yes. But it also depends on how do we define living off the hobby.
Hmm.
Is it just only solely Pokemon trading card game and whatnot? Or is it also just working in relation with this, where you use this as part of your job, like working for Pokemon or working for another company that is involved with the game? You could think about sleeve manufacturers or something like that. Would that also count? Depends on how broadly we define this, but
Hmm.
regardless of how you define it, the answer is yes. There are people who can make a living of this.
My thought was going to be like being able to still be competitive, so not counting Pokemon in that, or not counting like. So we just did a re-release episode of my interview with my sponsor, the owner of Tabletop Village, right, owning a card store, and then obviously he still plays and stuff like that, and that's something
So that
was
would count.
another one. Exactly, right. That's one that I'm like, in my mind, I want to say no to that one, even though technically you're right. He is making a living off of the Pokemon trading card game, but I'm
But
like,
you would mean that your predominant way of income is related to, say, coaching, concentrating in the field,
that's
or playing.
that's what I was thinking of personally, although don't mind also exploring the other one. But as far as the like hyper competitive players who are then making a living off of the way Tord does, which is coaching and sponsors, or whether it's
The answer
Mahone,
is still
YouTube,
yes.
Twitch.
The answer is still yes. There is a non-zero number.
Mhm.
Removing Tord from the equation here, there's still a non-zero number of people who can make a living of this, or who are already making a living of this. Just because you're making a living of this doesn't mean you're going all public about saying, ha ha ha, I live by playing Pokemon, or by coaching, or by content creating. No, no,
I don't
no,
know.
no.
People do like saying that though.
Yeah, they do like saying it, but not everybody does that. Not everybody does that. Believe it or not, Kevin, not everybody is, high and all like, ooh, I'm the best and whatever. No, there are a lot of silent people out there, and that's
Mhm.
fine.
As far as like the numbers too, is this something that you see as like a linear growth as the game grows, the number of people who can be a full-time like player, content creator, coach, etc.? Is that going to be like a one-to-one, or is it going to be something where as the game grows, that number of people who can make a living is going to kind of stagnate a little bit, or it's not going to grow quite as rapidly? I hope that question made
Meaning,
sense without a visual of a graph.
no, but that's fine. I'm visualizing a graph in my head right
Mm-hmm.
now. So to put it in a more, math teacher sense, I don't know if you teach math in high school, do you? Or
I am a science teacher, so there's a little bit of math going on in there.
we're close enough, right? I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it's linear. I would say there's some curvature to this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you imagine a third degree polynomial, it goes and go upwards, and then it stagnates a bit. In economics, we
We
call
just
this.
lost half the audience at third degree
I
polynomial.
know.
Anyway, keep going.
I had to. That was totally on purpose, by the way. But the idea is you have a curve that, it's not an exponential growth, nothing like that, but it curves upwards ever so slightly, and then it would stagnate at a point, because there is a natural level to how much can be sustained at some point.
Mm-hmm.
The question is just how far do you go before this point of stagnation is achieved.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what in short, is it linear? No. Is it a more advanced, higher degree curvature, whatever? Yes. But how that exactly looks like, that's only for us to guess about.
What if we were to go on the other end of it? What if we were to look at the people who are sleeve manufacturers and card store owners and things like that? Is that the type of thing where people are supplying product to the necessary product, right? Like, I guess that's the important part. You need sleeves, you need cards, you don't need content. We like content. You should like content. You should like and comment and subscribe on this video on YouTube, right? But the people who are then
So
supplying to make their living, are they able to? Is that going to be a linear growth with the population that plays the game?
In fact, I think you can actually look at that one and already see what's coming ahead a little bit, because I think they're a little more ahead in terms of people who are playing the game and living of it, people who are supplying and living of it.
Yeah.
Because that has evidently just exploded. The number exploded for a while, like it really just went up. But you're also seeing a lot of what we don't hear about is all the people who close shop in the meantime. Also,
Hmm.
there is also a large number of people who just don't make it. And it's like with any type of business, they not everybody makes it, because if you do it out of pure passion, yes, you can get it quite fine. But some people are just not cut out to be business owners. It
Hmm.
is, yeah, but that is just fact of it. And can people sustain it? Yeah, sure. And we do see a lot of it. Look around. You have enough card stores to go around, depending on the country, of course, there's
Yeah.
more. But I believe if you're also even in Seattle, you have your fair share of local game stores that sells, among other things, Pokemon cards. Where you
Yeah.
can go and play, you can go and, get your supplies and whatnot. You don't have to go to the online market. Speaking of online markets, that's of course a big competitor as well. But what you actually do see is that the same stores are also online market, because they have to participate in online market in order to be sustainable. In Europe, we have card market.
Hmm.
Over you're probably doing more what TCG player,
TCG
toe and
player.
toe, TCG, yeah, TCG player, right?
Yep.
So, and there you see, of course, there's also a lot of stores that participates in this, right?
Hmm.
So they participate in both markets to not be, pushed out of the market by the online component or vice versa. So no, if you look at that, they're actually just ahead of the curve right now, in the sense that this is what's happening down the line. If the number of people who would live by playing the game would grow, then you would see what happened with the stores as well. It's going to be a increase in the numbers, but it's also going to flatten or even
Hmm.
decrease quite a bit, because at some point, people making the jump, not everybody will stay afloat.
That makes a lot of sense, right? Like there's always going to be that risk. And spoken as someone who definitely could not run his own business from the ground up, I would fail miserably at that. I don't know about you.
No, I don't think I could do it. I've even seen in my entire life. My parents, they have their own business. For my entire life, they took it the business, and they inherited the business from my grandpa, and they've been running and expanding and working that business the entire life. And I've even seen how it works, and even knowing all these backsides to it, like all the things that you don't see straight up front. I don't think still I will be able to do it. So it's you have to be a special kind of person for this, and that's not in a bad way. Actually, you're fantastic if you can do this,
Hmm.
but it takes really something to do it.
I saw something when you chose a PhD over the family business.
I actually asked once many years ago, "Did you expect it?" And my parents said, "No, no, we don't want you to do it to me or my brothers." They're like, "No, no, they don't want this for us." So I was the first one who went to university in the entire family, as far as I know, and the first one who definitely finished the PhD. So I did something very different.
I love that. Also, as a first generation college student, so the first person in the family to go to college, it feels pretty good, doesn't it?
It does, and sometimes when it's fun to hear my parents, like when they ask, "So what do your biggest oldest son do?" Yeah, he's at university. I don't understand what he's doing, but it's something with numbers. That's hearing my mom explain it. So often when people ask, I just go to Hogwarts. It's just Hogwarts. That's
So, another question that I have, and this, I don't know, I'm not 100% certain this is in your field, but I'm going to assume the answer is yes and tell me if I'm wrong. But let's say we have anyone listening who is interested in that ability to make Pokemon a full time job for themselves, either as a lofty dream goal, or maybe it's a, hey, I can realistically make this move. What are the things that an individual needs to consider if they were to try to make this type of move as essentially an independent contractor, right? What are some things that they need to look at in the market for this to happen?
so my core competence. No, do I know a bit about it? Perhaps. So
Okay.
one thing I would definitely think about here is that take it from the finance angle, right?
Mhm.
You need to, going a little back on what I said earlier, you need to really also establish what do I need in order to sustain it. That is, in a very boring sense, you need to be able to put up a budget for yourself. You need to make sure how much can I do this, and before you even do so, you should not do it without having any money in the bank, so to speak. You are investing in yourself here. You're investing in your business, and it
Mhm.
takes money to grow money, basically. So you need to be able to invest something. So you need to have a base. So you need to be able to calculate how much is this going to cost me in terms of setup. And that is just sitting down and do the plain boring math. I know you need to have this equipment, this I have already, or this I have already. You need to make sure of all the practicals. Do you have a room where you can stream your content from, for instance, or do you have a good setup? How much does it cost?
Mhm.
And how much would I have to make in order for this to make sense? And here, exactly, that little detail is what a lot of people forget. They say, okay, my YouTube video just made me $100. That is true, is $100 revenue, but revenue is not equal to profit. A lot of people forget that little step because, yes, you may think it's 100% revenue. Why? Because I already have the equipment, I already have it, I didn't have to invest anything. You're forgetting that you still have to pay tax on your money. And I'm assuming everybody wants to play by the book. I've never dealt directly with the IRS, but I don't want to get to know them.
Agreed.
So it's the kind of thing, like there's a lot of things you have to think about. So do your homework, do your study. Can get you a long way. You don't have to be an expert and know a lot of things about it. You have to start somewhere. So just sitting and getting to know, what does it mean to start a business? What do I practically have to do? Heck, I've been looking into it myself sometimes because, well, there is side gigs here and there and whatnot. Should I put it on my personal income statement, or should I make Stefan's classroom whatever stuff? So it is things that you have to think about, and it depends on what country and for the regulations, of course, but it all remains the same. You need to know, how much would I have to make of this in order to make this my living? Simple as that.
Yeah, and for anyone wondering too, why don't we dive into the specifics of like taxes or stuff like that? Or for my US people, like the ability to write off certain things on your taxes, or we both live in different countries and our listeners live in countries that neither of us live in. So we are not going to dive into the specifics of any tax stuff. Although I will say, shout out to TC Evolutions for giving me some advice on the US side of things for it. So feel free to reach out to them. They're a great sponsor of the podcast and very helpful individuals.
Yeah, they're really nice guys, so you should totally do that. I can vouch for this. They're really nice people, and just at least learn the tricks from people who know, who's been running a business for a long time. So just take what you can get.
Stefan, I know that you have some things, and I want to make sure if I didn't ask specific questions, are there other things you would like to add to the conversation that I neglected to ask? Because for those who don't know, a quick behind the scenes while he thinks, I never write down questions. I come up with all of this on the dome, and usually it works. And sometimes I listen back to an episode, I'm like, oh, you ding dong, you completely forgot to ask like an important thing. So, Stefan, is there anything else on this topic that you think should have been mentioned that we did not get to mention?
It's too early for me to think about that, to be honest.
It's too late for me to think about it.
It's like it's not even 8 a.m. here. I've been sitting here with you since 7 a.m. my time, right? And I still have to start my actual work after this. This is going to be a great day, I can tell you. But what we don't do for Pokemon, because we love this stuff, don't we?
You're not wrong. I am staying up late. I should have been in bed an hour ago, and here I am.
Yeah, the students tomorrow, you just say you're up making a podcast for Pokemon, right? And then give them a link to the podcast. That's easy, right?
That's the worst thing. I don't tell any of them, and they all found it, and I hate it. I don't want any of them to know.
I've also I just accepted at work I'm just a Pokemon professor guy. It's just I have colleagues like, oh, you're the guy with the YouTube channel. Yeah, that is me. Yes. And then like, you play Pokemon, or when it gets really bad, do you play Pokemon? Like when they go like that, I'm like, oh, ouch, no. But no, I cannot on top of my head think about something you've forgotten. There's gonna be something forgotten when we look back at it.
Sure. Oh, for sure.
But not right now. Not right now. No, that's all other topics. We can talk about other topics some other time, maybe.
I think I will definitely at some point, possibly in the summer, reach out to one we talked about a while ago. Here's a preview for anyone who made it to the end of the podcast, talking about the theoretical caps of regionals and things like that.
Oh my God! I want to talk about that so badly. About these tournament structures, these tournament things. Oh, this is great stuff. Great stuff.
If any of you want more of that, be sure to comment on the YouTube video or reply to the tweet at Lake of Rage Pod. Stefan, if the people want more from you, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Any shout outs you might have?
This is Stefan's classroom all around. So I believe my Twitter is still Steph5001. Why? Because Steph5000 was taken when I made it back in the day.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I just found when I started, I didn't use Twitter for the longest time. I think I had it since like what 2012 or something like that. And I didn't start using it until the pandemic. And then I realized, oh wait, I had a Twitter already, so I just kept using the old one. But otherwise, it's Stefan's Classroom on YouTube. That is what it is. And sometimes I randomly Twitch stream, but beware, you may run into a lecture and then learn something you didn't expect to learn. But now, shoutouts now. Just thanks to everybody who's been on my journey for so far. Been great with all the support and really happy with this. So friends, family, my wife, who can stand me for this long. This is a feat all on its own. And yeah, that's on to the next Pokemon adventure, I guess.
Myself, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at Mellow_Magikarp. Be sure to rate and review the show wherever you listen. This has been another episode of the Lake of Rage podcast. We'll catch you all next week.
Play Epic Splash.
Are you looking for sleeves? Of course you are. You're a Pokemon trading card game player like me. I recently got my hands on the Procyon Gaming dual spec sleeves, and I gotta say, I absolutely love them. I was actually kind of surprised by how much I liked them. So we've now partnered with the Champions Reserve to offer you 15% off of Procyon Gaming's new dual spec sleeves. And I'm saying, Mello, why would you want to pick these ones? Because I think first and foremost, they are indestructible. I had played with the Sentinels, their old formula, and those things just did not ever get nicks on the corners or anything like that. And now I've used the dual specs, and I gotta say, they are also just the most indestructible sleeves that I have seen or used so far. After shuffling up dozens of games hands, they have zero bent corners. They are slightly larger than the Sentinel, so the cards fit in perfectly. And my absolute favorite, they come in boxes of 70, so you don't have a ton of extra sleeves. You have just enough if somehow one of them were to ever break, although boy, you got to be a rough shuffler to do that. So check out the championsreserve.com, use code LAKE15 for 15% off an order of Procyon Gaming dual spec sleeves.